恭请大德圣听，为此法会，及一切众生，请传了法轮，教导我们如何了生，脱死离苦得乐，顺正无生。Will the Shankar with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye Allahati sanmyao sanputo 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Realm Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha. Welcome back to our Sutra lecture 177, right? 178, sorry, 178. As we explore the Dharma using the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra as our foundation. So where we are right now is we are looking, okay, let me show you because we have some new people joining us today. In terms of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra, we are in this section where the Buddha speaks about how if people you want something, how do you say, the Buddha teaches us how to make offerings, or how to make an image of the Buddha, and then how to be respectful, for example, observing the 8 precepts, eating pure food, which is vegetarian food, and also, as you see now on your screen, reading and reciting the sutra, and pondering the meaning. That means investigating what the sutra means and what is it in the sutra that can be beneficial in your daily life. And why do we do all this? Well, sometimes we need help, and there are certain things that we want because we think that it makes us happy. So the Buddha outlined long life, seeking wealth, seeking an official position. This means your career, or sometimes people want to seek a son or a daughter. So we went through how um, uh, the different causes and conditions that contribute to this, and how, in fact, it doesn't work only on prayers, but it works by you investing yourself. So the last few lectures, let me go back to here because that's where my notes are. The last few lectures has been about the different things that we can do to avoid a short lifespan or to get a long lifespan, okay? Or why the reasons why some people are healthy or some people seem to be plagued by illness most of the time, why some people are ugly and why some people are beautiful, why some people have influence or power whereas some people don't. Then some people have status, some people are rich and poor, some people have very poor or are totally ignorant of the Dharma, but some people have a very extensive knowledge of the Dharma. Why are some people born as hell in the hell realm? Why are some beings born as animals? Why do hungry ghosts become hungry ghosts? And then asuras, humans, and then the different realms of gods, how transference can affect rebirth, and then repentance, how repentance and reform can work. Okay, so today we are going to revisit quickly about transference and repentance. But before we get there, some of you may have heard Leven's question. Leven's question is on to how do we accord with living beings? Because this is the ninth vow of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, or great strength Bodhisattva. So I shared on screen. Later we're going to revisit and um, I'll look at the topic in detail. Okay, so you can just read this. I'm not going to go through it because we're going to do it later. Now, as usual, before we get into the sutra, does anyone have any questions? If you do, the regulars will know that you can just unmute your microphone anytime and ask questions. But if you're shy and you don't like to share your voice, you can also type it into the chat box. But any question, as long as it's to do with the Dharma, you're more than welcome. And also, I see that Christy Harrington is with us today. Christy, the last time you said that you would like to participate in requesting the Dharma, but after that, Melinda, who organizes, who requests the Dharma, realized she did not have a way to contact you. So Christy, if you would be able to share your contact number or an email, preferably the contact number associated with a WhatsApp account, then Melinda would be able to get in touch with you. All right. Now, getting back to our sutra, where are we? Okay, cause and effect. This is the same sutra that we are reading, the Karma Vibhanga, or the transformation of karma. And this is from the Tibetan canon, all right, or the Mahayana canon. So the reason I'm sharing this again is because I think it is important, because here the Buddha speaks about repentance and reform. And it is, how you say, the Buddha is being very specific. So the question asked is, what kind of action is, action here means karma. All right, so the Buddha says, what kind of karma is considered to be intended and carried out? That means the karma is developed in full. So the Buddha says, whatever karma one has carried, action one has carried out, you do not feel remorse. So this refers to an unwholesome act, all right, an unskillful act. That means when the karma ripens, or when the seed ripens, the result is something that makes you really, really unhappy, all right? So, but at the moment when it's performed, the person does not feel remorse. The conscious is, how do you say, you don't, the conscious is not stricken at all. It doesn't think twice about what it's doing. You don't think it's a mistake. You don't confess. And then you don't try to efface it. And then you engage in it again. And you don't make a vow to not do it again in the future. All right. So the Buddha says, this is considered you have planted the karmic seed. All right. Vincent, do you have a question? I notice your microphone is unmuted. All right. If not, then I will mute you. Okay. All right. So this is what we do on a regular basis. Sometimes we do certain things that are unskillful, but we don't realize. Or worse still, you know you should not be doing it, but you do it regardless. Okay. Now, this is the interesting part. All right. So the Buddha says, what kind of action is considered to be carried out without intent? Now, if any of you knows the definition of karma, karma means any speech, okay, anything you say, anything you do, or anything that you think, and there's intention behind it. That's considered karma. All right. But then here the Buddha says, what is action? What kind of action is considered to be carried out without intent? In other words, it's no longer considered karma, or the karma gets cancelled out. So if you do something wrong, okay, or if a person does something wrong, and then feels remorse, your conscious, how you say, conscious doesn't let you go. All right, you feel guilty. All right, you feel bad. You know that you made a mistake. You know that it was wrong, and then you confess. That means you repent, and then you tell yourself you're not going to do it ever again. You vow not to do it ever again in the future. So the Buddha said this kind of action is considered to be carried out without intent. So this is how repentance and reforming works. Okay. Now the next one is very interesting because both these practices have to do with Pure Land practice. This is on dedication and transference, and how does action or karma lead to a predetermined rebirth. What is that? What is a predetermined rebirth? And that means you can influence where you are going to be reborn. You have a say on where you are going to be reborn. Normally, we don't. Okay, normally it's our karma that causes us to be reborn in our next state, and you just flow along. But here, the Buddha says, if you carry out actions or karma based on roots of wholesome states, okay, for example, the 10 wholesome deeds, or the 4 Brahma Viharas. Says one, and then not only that, you dedicate them or you transfer them to whichever rebirth location one has aspired to. Okay, that's one way. Or the other way, which you really want to avoid, is you commit an evil action that brings immediate karmic retribution. So in these ways, one rebirth will have the nature of being predetermined. So you may have, say, done a lot of good things in the past, and the conditions have aligned. You're supposed to go for a heavenly rebirth, but then you do something that's really, really bad, okay? And guess what? No more heavenly rebirth for you. You're going to fall, okay, due to your evil action. And then the Buddha says, how can rebirth be changed through action, through karma? So the Buddha says, a person carries out a virtuous action and makes an aspiration prayer. Aspiration prayer is the same as making a vow. All right. And then by virtue of this action, that person's rebirth destiny can be changed. So this is why in Pure Land, you make the vow to be reborn in a Pure Land, and everything that you do, you dedicate or you transfer the merit to the Pure Land. This is how it works. Okay. All right. Now, this is very interesting. Today, we have a lot of stories. We have a lot of interesting stories. Why? It's because the last 2 lectures were a bit straightforward. And it was also because I did not discover this sutra that we have right now, this Kama Vibhanga. It has a counterpart sutra that's very similar, but this the other sutra has a lot of stories to do with this cause and effect. And only today, by pure luck, I managed to find this particular sutra. And I realized that there are a lot of stories that provide examples of how this cause and effect happens. So today, I'm very excited because I hope that it's not going to be as boring as the last two lectures. Yeah, how do I know it's boring? Because someone told me that my past two lectures were boring. I can't tell who it is. If there's anyone who has the right to tell me that they were boring, is this particular person. Okay, and the reason why I'm not sharing who it is because I don't want this person to be embarrassed and stop being honest with me. Okay, all right. So, okay, now the Buddha says, how does action or karma cause a person to be reborn in another country? What does this mean? Okay, the Buddha says, after one has contemplated with strong faith, either, let me see, there's a typo. There should be an in somewhere. Strong faith in either the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, or any person who possesses moral discipline, that means you hold the precepts well, one makes an offering and prays to be reborn in another country. All right. According to whatever other actions one has committed, their skillful or unskillful karmic results are exemplified in the story of the merchant. His actions ripened after he had traveled to a foreign country. Okay, what is this? What story of the merchant? All right. Now, the story goes like this, and this story was told by the Buddha himself. Buddha said, once upon a time, that means this is like a fairy tale, but it's actually true. But it happened a long time ago. And during this story, the Buddha said the lifespan of humans in Jambuvipa is the continent that we are on. The Buddha says the lifespan was indefinite. That means very long, and which is unusual because in other sutras, the Buddha explains how the lifespan of human beings as a cycle. It starts off at 84,000 years, and how every 100 years it will reduce by 1 year. Okay, so on average, the lifespan of beings will reduce from 84,000 years until it reaches the lowest level, which is 10 years old. And at 10 years old, okay, average lifespan of 10 years old, humans behave like animals. We don't really behave like humans anymore. But then because it's the lowest, the only way things can change is it goes up. So from at 10 years, every 100 years, the lifespan will increase by 1 year until it reaches 84,000 years. And then it will start to decline again. Anyway, in this sutra, or this encounter the Buddha is explaining, apparently the Buddha says the lifespan of humans is indefinite. Okay. Maybe it means 84,000 years. I'm not sure. Anyway, the story goes like this. In a certain city, there was a merchant's son. That means someone whose father was a merchant, and his name was Maitrayana. All right. He had 500 friends, and these 500 friends had a plan. He said, all merchants in our city, he says, like our fathers, not only were they merchants, but they gained their riches by sailing to other lands. And they said there's this land called Golden Island. Apparently, Golden Island here refers to Sri Lanka. Maybe not the Sri Lanka that we know because this is a different time, but they call it the Golden Island. And they say when they sail to this Golden Island, their main aim is to gain riches by trading. So they said, so the 500 friends said, we want to go and you should come with us too. So the young man said, okay, let's all go. So he went home and he told his mother, he said, mother, I want to go to the Golden Island. And guess what? The mother said, why? Said, we are already so rich. Our house is full of treasures. Don't go. So he listened to his mom. Okay, I'm just going to call him Maitreya for short. I don't know how to pronounce his name. So Maitreya listened to his mom. And then he went to see his friends and he told his friends, okay, my mom told me not to go, so I'm not going to go. But then his friends started to pressure him. He said, no, you have to go, you have to go. And we won't go without you. So additional pressure. So he went home to tell his mom. Again, the mom pleaded with him not to go. Now this time, okay, not only did the mom, forbid him not to go, the mom, it is said, held his feet. It means probably the mom knelt down. It doesn't say why. I guess it's because if the father is not featured in the story, maybe the father is no longer around, and that's why it's so important for the mother that he doesn't leave. Because why? When you leave on and you cross the sea to get to a different place, there's a lot of dangers involved. So he went back to the friends and said, "No, I'm not going to go." And this happened 3 times. Okay. And on the third time, the friends really applied pressure to him. And then on the fourth time, when he told his mom that he wanted to go again, the mom held his feet. And this time, when he resisted his mom, it's not for sure, but he stepped on the mother's head. And after that, he left. Okay. So along the journey, he said, he said it's going to be a dangerous journey. We're not sure if we're all going to live or die. So he said we should all maintain the 8 precepts. So at least he had the sense of maintaining the 8 precepts. But they encountered a mighty storm. The ship capsized. The ship sank into the sea. Everyone died except him. All right. Why? Because he managed to seize a large copper pot, and he had cloth that he could cover the pot so water couldn't go in. So he used the pot as a flotation device. So everyone died except him. And he floated in the sea until he reached the end of the ocean. And he started to walk. And guess what he came upon? He came upon a city. It was described as a city with a golden wall. All right. And then when he went into the city, he found there was an orchard with a lot of trees, fruit trees. There was a lotus pond. Everything smelled really nice. Flower petals were scattered everywhere. And the place was decorated with silk ribbons. And then inside this city, there were 4 goddesses. So it's like heaven. You could say that he didn't die, but he kind of appeared in a heavenly place. So the 4 goddesses saw him and led him inside, and he began to stay with them for many, many years. And the Buddha said, many years, many hundreds of years, many thousands of years, and many hundreds of thousands of years. And then one day, the goddesses, yes, told him, he said, "Okay, young man, since you are a stranger in our land, you should stay with us. But if you happen to want to leave, only go in the northern direction." Okay, that's what they told him. So one day he decided to leave, although it was such a nice place to live. So he left the city and he started walking north. And then he came to another city, but this time with a silver wall. The first city had a golden wall. This city had a silver wall. Again, the city had the same things inside: an orchard, a lotus pond, everything smelled really nice, flower petals everywhere, silk ornaments everywhere. But this time, instead of 4 goddesses, there were 8. 8 goddesses appeared, very beautiful, and they welcomed him. So he stayed with them. Also, he stayed with them for a very long time. And they gave him the same instructions to say, if you ever leave this place, make sure you only go north. All right. So after many, many years, he left the place. And then he went north. And now he came to a city with a wall of lapis lazuli, which is the precious stone associated with Medicine Master Buddha. Again, everything the same, okay, except now instead of 8 goddesses, anyone want to guess how many goddesses there were? If you have taken the IQ test, you see the number 2 and then the number 4, and then they ask you to, and then 8, no, 2, 4, 8, and then they'll ask you to guess the next number. All right. So the next, how many goddesses appeared before him? 16. All right, double of the previous one. So he stayed with them again, amused himself with them, and had a really good time. And when he felt that he had enough, he left the city and then he went north. Again, he came across another city, and the wall was made of rock crystal. That means maybe like glass, maybe like that. Again, everything the same, but this time 32 goddesses were there even better than before. So he stayed there and enjoyed himself. And then when he felt that it was time to leave again, he went north. All right. He walked and he walked. But now, instead of coming to a city, he came to a thicket of thorns. That means bushes and brambles. And after that, he came to a city, but this city had a black iron wall. Right? So he was curious. He said, this city looks very different. As soon as he entered the city, the gates shut behind him and he couldn't leave. And then when he looked at the walls, he saw that the walls started to rise higher and higher and higher. And then he heard an awful sound. There was someone screaming. And he was wondering, what kind of place is this? And he became really, really terrified. And then guess what he saw? He saw a man who was sitting, and then on top of the man's head, there was a wheel that was made of saw blades. And this wheel was turning, and this wheel, as it was turning, was cutting up this man's head. So he went to the man and said, "Hey, you." He said, "What is this place?" And the man said, "Oh, this is my personal hell." So Maitreya asked him, "Your personal hell? What did you do to get to this hell?" So the man told his story. The man said he came from a city called Mahakosali. All right. And then every single detail this man told him mirrored this young man's life experience exactly. He was the son of a merchant, and then he had 500 friends. The 500 friends wanted to sail to a golden island for riches. He wanted to follow them, but his mother didn't allow him to go. And the mother refused him 3 times. On the fourth time, he couldn't take it anymore. He stepped on the mother's head. On the journey, everyone died, etc., etc., etc. And then this man came to, just like him, and encountered the 4, the 8, the 16, the 32 goddesses, and until he came to this very place, right? And then he saw another man sitting on the chair with a wheel of swords rotating above his head. And before he knew it, he was sitting in the chair himself. So he said, due to the ripening of his karmic fruit of his action of resisting the mother, he disobeyed the mother. That is why he was in this hell. And he encountered the 4 heavenly blessings. How did he encounter the 4 heavenly blessings? Is because he listened to his mother 4 times, and then he took the 8 precepts. But in the end, because he disobeyed his mother and stepped on her head, which is a very unskillful thing to do, he came to this hell-like realm. So when the poor young man Maitreya heard this and realized that he did the exact same thing, the only difference was that he came from the city that he came from had a different name called Tamalipta, but every single detail was the same. Okay, you can't make this up. Then when he told the hell being that, the hell being said, "Oh," he said, "that's why I heard a voice from the sky before you came that said, the karmic fruit of your action is exhausted. That means you are at the end of your paying back your karmic debt. And there's one whose name is Maitreya, which is this young man standing in front of me, the son of a sea merchant who has committed an action similar to yours." All right, so poor Maitreya, now so afraid, asked the hell being, he said, "What kind of food do you
Yes,
eat
please.
here?" Yes, Christy?
So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, I'm going to mute you then. Okay, sorry. All right, now, I think he was preparing for his stay in this hell realm because, so he had the sense to ask the hell being, he said, "What kind of food do you eat here?" And then the hell being replied, "I eat the flesh, pus, and blood flowing from my own shredded head." And right after he answered, he died. And poor Maitreya, so terrified and distraught that he made a vow. Okay, he made a vow for the sake of his mother. The Buddha said the vow that he made was this. He said, in all the countless worlds, from the peak of existence downward, from the Avicii hell outward, it means from the highest heavens to the lowest hells, okay, and everything in between. He said, may the assemblies of gods, asuras, and maharogas be happy, and may their suffering be taken on by me. So he made a Mahayana vow. He wanted to be responsible for the ending of suffering of all living beings. And then what did he do? He bowed, he imagined that his parents were in front of him, and he bowed to his parents. And then he made another vow. He said, wherever I am reborn, I will honor my parents. Okay, finally he realized. He said, I will remain here in this individual hell. So he accepted his fate. He said, I will remain in this individual hell for the sake of those who will be reborn here. That means he wants to be there to spare the others of the same fate. And he said, to those in the world who are engaged in proper conduct and those who are liberated, I bow in reverence. So in other words, he turned himself towards virtuous behavior. And he said, I pray that they will protect me. And he stayed there as a being of this individual hell and make a further aspiration for the sake of his parents. Let me see. He says, okay, so he made another vow. He said, from the highest heavens to the lowest hell, may all the beings bound by the fetter of death, that means subject to birth and death, as many as they are without exception, may they live happily intent on virtue, and may they experience the ageless, deathless, that is nirvana. So because he made these vows and he realized his mistake, as he was sitting there, bound to this hell, the wheel of blades that was spinning above his head never came down. So he just kept on spinning and spinning, but it never touched his head. And then also what helped him was this. Although he forsake his mother, all right, still the mother made a vow on his behalf. The mother said, if there's any benefit to be derived from the merit that I've accumulated through my practice of generosity, ethics, and being a faithful wife, may the fruit of this merit lead to the happiness of my son, whatever and wherever he may be. All right, so these two things, his own vows and the transference of his mom, all enable him to not suffer the wheel of the blades and his head being cut up. And then he only had to spend 60 years in this hell instead of for a long, long time, only 60 years. So then, and if 60 years may be a long time to us, but if you compare to the hundreds and thousands of years he spent in the 4 heavenly places before he came to this realm, 60 years is nothing. All right, it's like maybe one day for us or just a few hours for us. So after the Buddha told this story, the Buddha told the monks, he said, you may think that this young man Maitreya was somebody else at that time, but he says no, it was actually himself. This was Shakyamuni Buddha himself in his past life. So he said, monks, listen to me, have faith in my words. You should cultivate reverence for the Dharma and the Sangha. You should also revere your parents, your preceptor, and your teacher. And he said, know this, monks, those who travel to a foreign land can experience both pleasure and pain, just like Maitreya, who after traveling to a foreign country experience a personal heaven and a personal hell in a single lifetime. In this way, action that leads to the experience of pleasure and pain in a foreign country will ripen accordingly in a foreign country. Okay, so that's all I have for this particular slide. There's a few things I'm not quite sure about, so don't ask me to explain more. But okay, let's move on. Now, this is from a counterpart Sutta. This is where all the stories are coming from, although the content is the same. The main principles are the same. Here the Buddha says, whether something is done for me or for your parents, your preceptor, or your teacher, there is no difference, and the karmic result is the same, experienced either in this lifetime or the next. Okay, which is why in other sutras, the Buddha says, it begins at home, when you can treat your parents like the Buddha. Or for some people, it's the opposite. Their reverence for their parents are so great that they learn how to revere the Buddha from their own relationship with their parents. And then, if you examine your relationship and what brings out the best in you, if you can expand the same perception that you have towards other people in your life, then that's where the Mahayana magic begins. Okay, now coming to the next slide. Again, the Buddha says, monks, suppose someone took their parents on their back and roamed the Jambu continent or Jambudvipa with them, provided them with provisions, and filled the whole of the 4 continents with riches and gold. Even this kind of generosity could not repay the parents' kindness. There's another sutra that says that if you carry your parents on your shoulders until the weight of carrying your parents wear you down until your bone is exposed, even until then, you are unable to repay the kindness of your parents. There's another different version of the sutra. But then the Buddha says, but if someone, it means a son or a daughter, were to cause another person, here it means your parents, to develop faith in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and accept, establish them in the 5 precepts and the moral conduct that is praised by noble ones. In this way, children will be repaying their parents' kindness. And that is precisely what preceptors and teachers do. That's why if you treat parents and teachers and preceptors well, it is the same as treating the Buddha well. Okay. The reason I'm sharing this particular slide is this weekend I had the particular pleasure of actually witnessing this happen. I was being fortunate enough to be part of this. Yeah. All right. Now, moving on. Coming back to our sutra from the Tibetan canon, Buddha goes on, talks about now, what kind of action, when accumulated, leads a person who has been born in a hell realm to be reborn again as a hell being after completion of the full lifespan of the hell realm. That means you get reborn in hell, and then when it's over, it's not actually over because you get reborn again in hell to re-experience what you just did. Okay, Buddha says, someone who carries out an intentional action that leads to rebirth in hell, that means a grave misdeed, and you don't feel any remorse, okay? You don't think it's a mistake. You don't think it's inappropriate. You don't confess. And not only that, you do it again. And you even make a promise that you want to do it again and again. All right. Say, for example, an extreme case would be like a mass murderer. You obviously know it's wrong and you do it once, and then somehow or other, you feel compelled to want to do it again, and you don't feel bad about it. You rejoice in the action, you admire such action. Well, then be careful, because then when you get reborn in hell, it doesn't end with just that long lifespan in hell. You know how long a lifespan in hell is? Let me show you. I actually have a slide. Okay. Not a slide, but a spreadsheet, which I've compiled. Let me show you exactly how long it is. Okay. Let me increase the size. Oops. One more. Okay. Now, we are in the world of desire. All right. Here, world of desire. And humans are here. Okay. Below us is the animal realm. Then you fall further is the ghost or the hungry ghost realm. Now, below that is the hell realm. All right. Now, if you look at the hell realm, the minor hell realm, okay, your lifespan there is 500 hell years. But 500 hell years is equivalent to, let me see, how many zeros are there? Okay, 7 zeros is 1 million. This is 1 billion. This is 1 trillion. 1.6 trillion human years. That's how it feels like. And that's only 500 hell years. That's the most, how you say, what's the word I'm looking for? Gentle hell, if there's such a thing, that's the least severe. Okay, least severe hell. But then, okay, if you say you go to the hell of heat and your lifespan is 16,000 years, let me expand this. Okay, how many zeros are there? I don't even know how to say this. Let me see. This is 1 billion. This is trillion, right? This is what, quintillion? Okay, there's no way. There's no way the human mind can figure out, can even imagine how long this is. All right. So if you're unlucky enough to fall into any of these hells, what the Buddha says is, once your lifespan ends, you get to experience it all over again. Okay, and that's how long. And that's just one of the middling hells, 16,000 years. Okay, you go lower, it's no longer represented by numbers, but by a metaphor, by X, number X. And what is X? Okay, look here. X is a metaphor of, you take 4,000 kilograms of sesame seeds, all right? 4,000 kilograms of sesame seed. You all know how small a sesame seed is, right? And how light it is. Now, you have 4,000 kilograms, I think that's 4 tons, right? Of sesame seeds, and you remove only one seed every 100 years. And then go calculate that out. I don't think a calculator can give you so many zeros, so many numbers. And that's one of the X hell years. And if you look at the other hells down there, it's 20 times that amount. That's why in Christianity, when they say you go to hell, it's forever, or what's the word? Purgatory. Anyway, okay, coming back to our sutra. All right. Now, the next thing that the Buddha brings up is what would cause a person to be born in the hell realm, to be reborn again as a hell being after only half the lifespan in hell. Okay, so only half, you only experience half of the lifespan. So it says, suppose one has carried out an action that leads to rebirth in hell, but one feels remorse, is conscience stricken, and thinks that one has made a mistake. You know it's wrong, and you vow not to commit this action again in the future. So while one who has accumulated this kind of action or karma will be reborn as a hell being, one will subsequently take rebirth after only half the lifespan in the hell has elapsed. So you get off half. All right. Now let me see. I have a few more slides and then we will go, it's 10:14, and then we will go and answer Leven's question. Okay. Says, what kind of action? All right. This is the next category. You're born in hell, but then you get reborn immediately. What does that mean? Okay. So that means you can't escape being reborn in the hell realm, but the moment you appear in the hell realm, it's kind of like you die and then you get out of hell realm into your next rebirth. So you only open there momentarily. So Buddha says, someone who has carried out an intentional action that leads to rebirth in hell, but you feel remorse, conscience stricken, you think that you have made a mistake, it's wrong, you confess, you give it up, okay, you don't engage in it again. You vow not to commit it again. And then later, all right, you still feel remorse, you're unhappy about having carried out such an action, you dispense with, you shun, and you renounce the action. That means your remorse is genuine. And you arouse an intense sense of renunciation. All right? You want to give it up. The person who has accumulated such an action will take rebirth immediately upon being born in the hell realm as King Ajata Satru. Okay, this comes to story number 2. Okay, who is King? Let me see. It's 10:15. Okay, I'll give you a teaser If we don't have time today, we'll definitely do it next week. Who is King Ajatasattu? Okay, King Ajatasattu is the son of King Bimbisara, and his mother's name was Queen Vaidehi. And he did a lot of things. Why? Because he believed in Devadatta. He thought Devadatta was better than the Buddha. And also because Devadatta was being very mischievous, Devadatta used his spiritual powers to make this prince. He used to be the prince, and then he murdered his fathers. Then he became a king, like him. So we actually have his mother to thank for one of the Pure Land Sutras, the Sutra on visualization of Amitabha's Pure Land. That was because after he had killed his father, he also wanted to kill his mother. And his ministers, when they realized he wanted to kill his mother, they said that he said, throughout history, there have been many instances where princes will kill their fathers to take the throne, but there has never been a single case where they have also killed their mother. And if you do so, we will abandon you, they told him. So this scared him a lot. So he spared his mother. But his poor mother was so sad that she made a plea to the Buddha. And she said, tell me of a place where it is, where I'm free of this, all these evil deeds. So the Buddha taught her how to visualize Amitabha's Pure Land. Okay. And the next slide is on this story. Yeah. But because we are running out of time, I want to answer Leven's question. As I'm looking for the slide that I need, does anyone have anything you want to bring up? Any question or anything you want to share? Anyone? No? Okay, today we have a lot of new people. Thanks to Dr. Ho, who has told his family members, as well as the some of the participants in the Sampotong English Adult Dharma class. Makes me very happy to see so many people. But at the same time, I know probably next week, half of you won't be coming anymore because that always happens. Then I get disappointed. So I hope that you all, for the sake of the Dharma, for your love of the Dharma, don't disappoint me. Okay. All right. Now, Leven's question is on, you look at your screen. This is Samantha Bhadra Bodhisattva's vows. Her question is on number 9, to constantly accord with beings. And Leven, do you want to ask your question again?
Yes, Fashi.
Okay.
My question was about the ninth vow, and I don't understand how by going along with all beings, how that can be a good thing.
Okay. So your question is, for example, if they want something which may be not so good for them, does that mean you just agree with everything that they want?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you all think? Anyone? Does constantly accord with beings or living beings means you give in to any whim and fancies or wishes that they want? If you have a child, okay, and they have just received their driver's license and they want a very, very powerful, fast car and you can afford it, does that mean you follow Samatha Brother Bodhisattva's vows by giving them what they want? Is that what it means? Anyone? Anyone want to try? Okay, maybe I'll share some slides with you and then you can tell. Okay. All right. Now, because this is a vow of a bodhisattva, what we're going to look at is very aspirational. That means we're not there yet, but it's meant to inspire us. Okay. And there's a lot of, sometimes it doesn't appeal to the logic, to logic, it appeals more to the heart. But if you can view it from your heart, then it becomes extremely logical. If that makes sense. Okay, if it doesn't make sense, now mind, we'll go through it. Okay, so this is Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva explaining his own vows. He says, again, son of good family, because I can't remember who is the person asking the question, but because he's asking for the Dharma, he's given the title son of a good family. In other words, someone from the Shakya clan. All right. It says, as for what is meant by constantly according with beings, this refers to according with all the many different kinds of beings in the oceans of Kshetras. Kshetras means a large number, throughout the 10 directions of the Dharma realm and the realms of space, including those are egg-born, womb-born, moisture-born, transformationally born, those who are born in and live in reliance on earth, water, fire, or wind, and those who are born in and live in reliance on the air or the plants and trees. In other words, every single sentient being, all right, bar none. Everyone is included. Okay, so this covers the scope of the vow. All right. Now it says, these include the many different kinds of sentient beings. So in case someone thinks of what if or how about, all right, this addresses that. She says, different kinds of sentient beings with their various physical bodies, forms, appearances, lifespan, species, names, mental natures, go on and on. Okay, aspirations, volitions, their behavior, even the clothing, the kind of food and drink they have, where they live, what kind of big place, small place, high rise, low rise. Okay, and then it includes devas, right, in all the heavens, dragons, and others among the 8 kinds of spiritual beings. That means the asuras, the yakshas, the kumbanda ghosts, all of them. All right. As well as humans, non-humans, and so forth, including those without feet, those with 2 feet, 4 feet, or many feet. So millipedes, centipedes are also included. Those with physical forms, those without physical forms, those with perception. So in other words, every single living being. Okay. Okay. Now, then he says, I accord with all of them, such as these, by transforming my appearance in a manner that is appropriate with them. What does this mean? What does this transforming my appearance in a manner that is appropriate to them? It means that no matter, this is like Guan Yin in the Universal Door chapter from the Lotus Sutra. It means you take on the appearance that is most conducive to reaching out to that person. In other words, you don't discriminate in what belief they have. Okay, they can believe in different religions. They don't need to be a Buddhist. You don't apply labels. In other words, you don't judge people for who they are. You are able to accept them, including their faults. Why? Because you understand that all living beings, okay, especially those who have not ended birth and death, that means all of us have faults, and the faults are a result of our past karmic deeds. So although we are responsible for ourselves and we planted those deeds in the past, we forget that we have done those things. And so because we forget, it is not fair to blame someone for the situation that they are in. Understand? Because in this particular time in their lives, they cannot remember their past lives. So to blame someone for, if someone blames you for who you are and hey, you can be better, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? It's not fair because it doesn't take into account why you are who you are in the first place. All right. So bodhisattvas can see that they have wisdom. They can see all your past causes and conditions. So you can, how you say, you are able to treat them with understanding. All right. So they don't come to you, like you ask Guan Yin for help. Guan Yin doesn't come to you and ask you, have you taken the 5 precepts? Are you a Buddhist? Do you practice loving kindness? No, they don't do that. Okay. Their job, all right, or their responsibility that they take onto themselves is to help you do all those things. Okay. So if they judge you and they make you feel bad about yourself, there's no way they can inspire you to be the better version of yourself. No way. All right. Okay. Then Samantra Bodhisattva goes on to say, I then serve them in many different ways and present them with many different kinds of offerings, just the same and no differently than if I was revering my parents or serving teachers, elders, arhats, or others up to and including the Tathagata. All right, now this is a very profound principle because if you can practice it, it has the ability to transform your happiness and your well-being through every single person you meet. Okay, now I'll use this example. Some of you are very familiar with it because I don't have a better example. It's a personal example. When I was growing up, one of my grandmothers would come and visit us sometimes. And when I was young, I was a very naughty boy. My mother will testify to this, to the point that in my home, we had many different canes all over the place. So it was convenient for my, okay, I'm exaggerating, maybe 2 canes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to make my mom look bad. Anyway, my mom had canes in the home. Why? Because I was, because I was very naughty. And if my grandmother was around, then as my mom was trying to cane me and I would be running all over the place, where would I go? I would run behind my grandmother. And my grandmother would be so nice. She would say, that mother, oh, I mean, this is the way your son is. I mean, she doesn't mean I'm hopeless, but she just accepts me for who I am. I say, oh, children will be children, you know, and I'll be safe. I'll be safe for my mom. And I think that would make my mom even more upset. But anyway, I'm not talking about my mom, I'm talking about my grandmother. So because my grandmother accepted me for who I was, unconditional, as the typical or the, how you say, the ideal grandmother. In turn, I would do anything for my grandmother, or at least in my memory now, okay, thinking back, if I put myself back in that situation when I was maybe 5 to 8 years old, that me now, I would do anything for my grandmother. Anything. If I had anything nice to eat, I would happily offer it to my grandmother. But if you ask me to share it with my brother, no way. Ask me to share with my younger brother, no. Never. Why? Well, I don't know why I won't share my mother. But with my grandmother, it's because of her unconditional acceptance of me. So because of that, it brings out the wholesome traits in me in a very natural way. I will share, and I don't feel like as if I'm even sacrificing anything. I do it willingly, and not only that, it gives me joy. It gives me great happiness to be able to make my grandmother happy. Okay, so if you follow what you see on your screen, and then you extend that same attitude. So, for example, like me, if I start seeing all elderly women like my grandmother, okay, and the chances of them irritating me or making me upset falls a lot. And whatever I do for them, it fills me with joy. Because whenever I'm with them, I only think of their well-being. I don't think about myself. I'm not being selfish. So if you follow what you see on screen and you can slowly find within your relationships with who brings out the best in you, okay, and through practice, you apply that to every single person you meet. So the Bodhisattvas, that's why they say all beings that they meet are like their parents, like their father, their mother, or their children, or their cousins, or grandmothers in this case. And that's how Bodhisattvas can, one way Bodhisattvas can accord with beings. Okay, now Yume has written something. It says, sorry, interpret as in the first place, no normal being will believe this sentence. Only with practice and strong belief will believe this phrase. And by this time, the person will not wish for something not wise, will not will wish for spiritual. Yes, yeah, in a way, you're right, but we all have to start somewhere in our practice. Some people, because of the habits they have accumulated from past lives, when they see this sentence, they are a lot more advanced. Some people have to start from the beginning, and then maybe it's mm, a bit more understanding is needed. So everyone's on a different path. So right now, we are, because it's aspirational and inspirational, we're trying to see how we can motivate ourselves by examining which parts of how, in what circumstances do the best in ourselves come out naturally, and how can we apply ourselves now that we've understood ourselves in such situations, how can we adjust ourselves in other relationships so that everywhere we go, we are at our best. But best doesn't mean we are at our detriment. It means that no matter who we meet, we are always happy. All right. So now, looking at the second paragraph, it says, for those suffering from any of the many kinds of illnesses, I serve as an especially good physician. All right. For Liwen, this hits home because Liwen is a doctor. She's a specialist. Then for those who have lost the path, I show them the right road. For those who are in the dark of night, I produce illumination. And for those poor, I enable them to find hidden treasure. In this way, the Bodhisattva benefits all beings equally. Now, this being a Mahayana sutra, by now we all know that what seems to be very simple language on the surface actually is very deep. Okay, so when he talks about being a good physician, is using the Dharma as medicine. That means you're curing the sickness of greed, hatred, and ignorance. And then for those who have lost the path, that means they have strayed away from the Noble Eightfold Path. And how do you bring them where they use the Dharma as their guide? And so for those who are in the dark of night, people in fear, anxiety, people making wrong decisions because they lack wisdom in their lives, you give them wisdom. With wisdom, they can illuminate their way. They learn how to make skillful choices for themselves. And for those who are poor, poor here means lacking in skillful behavior, lacking in virtue. So you help them find their hidden treasures. So these treasures are not external treasures. These treasures are hidden treasures. So this passage has two meanings. One is external, so you can take it literally, all right? But there's another deeper meaning, which is what happens on the inside. Okay, now we go to why. Why does the Bodhisattva do this? This is because if the Bodhisattva is able to accord with beings, then this is to accord with and make offerings to all Buddhas. If he reveres and serves beings, then this is to revere and serve the Tathagata. If he causes beings to feel pleased, then this is to please all Tathagatas. Now, the language of this sutra, because it's of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, it's taking the best example. Why? Because a lousy example will not inspire anyone. You might even, have the opposite effect. So the sutras often quote the most exemplary behaviors. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are there. Okay, all right. Now coming back, it says, how is this so? This is because the Buddhas, the Tathagatas, take the mind of great compassion as their very essence. It is because of beings that they then produce the great compassion. It is because of the great compassion that they produce the resolve to attain Bodhi. And it's because of the resolve to attain Bodhi that they then realize the universal and right enlightenment. Resolve to attain Bodhi means you tell yourself that you want to embark on the path to Buddhahood, and it's not only for yourself. Your motivation is for all your loved ones. Okay. Okay. So coming back to what I said, that this is the best example of that's quoted in the sutras. You will find in yourself, if you examine yourself, there will be, like for me and my grandmother as my classic example, You will find in yourself instances where this happens. It won't happen in all relationships, but there will be some relationships where this will come naturally. Okay, and so that's where we learn about ourselves. Okay, let me see. Yes. Okay. I think we are running out of time. Because I have some things I want to say. Just let me try to figure out. Hold on, give me a moment. Let me look at the rest of my slides. Okay, I only have a few more slides, so I hope everyone's okay if I take a few more minutes. Okay. This, let me go for it. All right. The Buddha says, or rather the Bodhisattva says, when the mind is impartial towards all living beings, one can accomplish full and perfect great compassion. By using the heart of great compassion to accord with living beings, one perfects the making of offerings to the dust come ones or to the Buddhas. In this way, the Bodhisattva constantly accords with living beings. All right. And then it says, it is just as if there was a great king of trees in the wilderness desert that so long as its roots find water, its branches, leaves, blossoms, and fruit all flourish. So too it is with the king of Bodhi trees that grows in the wilderness of samsara. It is all beings who form the roots of this tree, and it is all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who form its blossoms and fruit. So long as the waters of the great compassion benefit beings, then it is able to produce, the fully developed blossoms and fruit of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' wisdom. That means what? That means your own wisdom uncovered. Why is this? This is because if Bodhisattvas use the water of great compassion to benefit beings, then they are able to gain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Bodhi itself depends on beings. So the reason why you want to accord with living beings is because your path to Buddhahood depends on living beings. Okay, then that's why the next slide says, if there were no beings, then none of the Bodhisattvas would ever become able to gain the utmost bright enlightenment. Son of a good family, you should understand the meaning of this in this way. It is because one has a mind of equal regard for all beings that one is able to develop perfectly complete great compassion. It is due to using the mind of great compassion to accord with beings that one is able to perfect one's offerings to the Tathagata. Okay, let me go on. I think this is the last slide. It says the Bodhisattva continues to accord with beings in this way until the realms of space come to an end, until the realms of beings come to an end, until beings' karmic actions come to an end, and until beings' afflictions come to an end. This accordance with beings of mind is endless. It continues on in each successive mind moment, uninterrupted and free of any weariness in the actions of the body, speech, and mind. In other words, when you become a bodhisattva at the same level of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, there is no limit to how you can help living beings. Nothing stands in the way. Okay, but this is Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. He is where he is now because of his vows. When he first made these vows, could he do all these things? No, he could not. All right, it is only because of his vow that he is where he is right now. So vows is like a compass. It orients you in a particular direction that you want to into the destination that you want to arrive at. But it doesn't mean you're there. Okay, where are you? You're where you are. Your destination is in front of you or very far away. So what do? You take one step, you put your one foot in front of the other, and you put another foot, the next foot in front of the other, and you continue doing that. But you never lose sight of your destination. That's what vows do. Vows help to orient your thoughts, your actions, and your speech in the direction that you want to end up at. Okay, but like you may pointed out, you are not there yet. That's why some of these can be hard to understand. That's why Mahayana Sutras there's a whole section of Mahayana Sutras that are mostly inspirational. It's meant for you, although the destination is far away, it's meant for you to orient your compass, because why? Your heart tells you is the right thing to do. But at the same time, your brain tells you you're not there. Okay, your own practice tells you you're not there. But if you don't orient yourself there, then your next step will not be in that direction. Okay, so coming back to being practical, okay, coming back to actually what this vow means, if you want to practice it, very simple. Okay, we have to look at our relationship with the people around us. You start with the people closest to you. Okay, don't think about people further away. Just think about the people whose happiness matters to you. All right. Now, you ask yourself, as these people go around in their lives, they meet other people. Do you always want them to meet people who will never harm them? Answer will be yes. Okay. Only a crazy person will say no. Okay. Psychopath will say no. But normal people, regular people will say yes, no matter what religion you're from. Okay. You always want your loved ones to be surrounded by people who will never harm them. You always want your loved ones to be surrounded by people who will never cheat, lie, steal. You go through the 5 precepts. Okay, you always want them to marry people who will never cheat on them, right? Sexual misconduct. Then you turn the focus on yourself and you ask yourself, all right, if these people so important to me, that I always want them to be surrounded by people who have precepted behavior, how do you treat them? So only yesterday I brought up this topic, and with the people that you care for, it only makes sense when you marry someone, when your child is born, that you you willingly or happily undertake the 5 precepts as far as they are concerned. Why? Because you want them to feel safe when they are with you. You want them to feel confident with you, right? You want to be a place of refuge for your loved ones, where they don't have to worry or doubt your behavior or care towards them, right? So you take the 5 precepts, and then you take the practice of loving kindness. You take the practice of compassion. You introduce empathetic joy into your relationships. And then from the 5 precepts, you extend it to the 10 wholesome deeds. All right. And then you look at the Shufu 6 guidelines. No fighting. Under no circumstances do you fight. Why? Because when you fight with someone or you cause them afflictions or suffering, you are retarding them on their path to ending afflictions, to ending of suffering. Why? You understand? Anytime you cause anyone afflictions, you are holding them back from their potential. So no fighting, no greed, no seeking or climbing on conditions. This means that if you meet people and you think that you can gain or benefit from them, you don't take advantage of them. If things are meant to be, things will naturally happen. Don't try to create the conditions. Okay. No selfishness. Don't try to benefit yourself, and no lying. All right. Then you look at oppression. Do you force your beliefs on someone? Do you try to oppress others thinking that I believe this is good for you and therefore you have to follow it or you have to do as I say? You may have the best intentions, but to oppress someone is not skillful behavior, because if you look at the world, a lot of wars are happening because people believe in something so strongly, they also believe that others should follow, should be subjected to their beliefs, and they try to force it on others. So it's not a skillful behavior. Okay. Now, having said this, all right, if you are a parent, for example, it doesn't mean you let your child do anything they want, because that would be going against wisdom. That would be going against loving kindness. Why? Because there's a certain form of teaching and discipline needed for a child for their own welfare, for their and in their own future. Because when they're young, they are not matured enough to make certain decisions. Shufu said, bringing up children is like you plant a tree, and then as the tree grows, you have to pay attention. If the tree is leaning in a particular direction, you don't want that to happen, because in the future it's just going to fall if there's a storm. So you need to prune the branches, you need to trim, and you need to help the tree grow up straight and strong. Then when the tree is matured enough, then the karma will take over, your child's karma will take over, and then it can, at that time, your role changes from a parent, your role changes to be more of a friend or a confidant. Yeah, there's a certain aspect to the relationship between the parent and their child goes to certain stages. So accord with living beings doesn't mean giving them anything they want. No, it means that you learn to apply skillful behavior in your relationship with them, and how you prioritize their happiness, not over your how you say, not at the expense of yours, but you adjust your relationship in a way where, as you make them happy, you are your happiness grows. So it's a healthy kind of relationship. Okay, so loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, the 5 precepts, the 10 wholesome deeds, which includes the 5 precepts. And then a variation of that would be Shufu 6 guidelines: no fighting, no greed, no seeking, no selfishness, no self-benefit, no lying, and you don't force your beliefs on others. That means if you want to change other people, you have to first change yourself and let your behavior do the talking. Okay, start there. All right, we start there, and then slowly the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's conduct and vows will start to make more sense. Why? Because you would have actual experience in your day-to-day interactions to reflect the vows. All right? Okay. Now, does anyone have any questions or anything you want to bring up, or anything I said you don't agree, or I didn't explain properly? No? Is everyone sleeping? The one thing about Zoom is you don't know if anyone is listening. Okay, right. Now, let's do our transference of merit. Is Peggy there? Let me see, Peggy. I was going to ask, this week we are doing, I thought I saw Peggy's name. Okay, anyway, this week, are we doing the regular transference of merit?
Yes,
Think,
Pastor.
okay, good, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put my palms together, invite everyone in joining me. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, we're going to do 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow, second bow, third bow, Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Okay, everyone. We'll see you all next week, and then we can continue on our discussion.